Hello, welcome to my channel for Evolved Humans. I am Ms. Day. The very first thing that I got with this reading, very strange, because I know that like one of the first words that I heard in my head that I think is in someone else's head, like I think that you are dealing with narcissism, and I don't think that a person is a narcissist, but I got this like feeling that whoever this reading is for, you're dealing with someone who has this narcissistic, shallow existence. This is so mean, but this is like what instantly came in. And this feels like it's because you need to protect yourself. And I felt like I instantly had the urge to articulate in words in my own mind, in my own space, like reconnect with my normal guides and with like just the highest frequency. You don't have to know anybody in particular to just be like grateful that the high frequency is there, even when you feel uncomfortable or anxious because of a low frequency that you're feeling, or because you are having a low frequency reaction. Because I also feel like the word anxiety is screaming, and not just anxiety though, it's on top of like a fight or flight response, like a trauma response in someone in here, where it's a trauma response because you're activated at all the wrong things and all the right things, which is really chaotic to be inside of. So that's why I just want to get straight to the point. It's like I had something to write down before I even spoke out what I saw. So one of the things that I was getting, whoever you are, I feel like I think I've even said in readings or something somewhere along the line that forgiveness is acceptance. And that's true in a certain way that you can look at it. But before this reading, when I was thinking, okay, someone needs to make sure they're protected, someone's reacting and respond, like alarms are sounding to, I think, other people's energy or perception kind of like beaming at you. And good God, that can be passed on people too. If you're opening up and you're working on being a medium and you're working on deciphering between everybody and their literal relatives and ancestors and pets and all of that, one of the first things that I learned throughout clearing houses and with being a medium, meaning you're interacting with energies, so whether they're living or dead, I'm going to get to the point. What I wrote down. It's all of it. So I don't know who's experiencing what, but it is like really important. Okay. So when you have a low frequency reaction, like when the alarms are sounding, you're feeling overly anxious, and you're having sort of the trauma response walls come up, and maybe you're freezing, however you actually react to that, maybe you put on your tunnel vision and you're like, okay, I just have to cocoon, just protect. But I think that that's the thing here. Like, first of all, I feel like you need to recognize that you are in need of a higher frequency than the human. Like, we can interact, but it's not the same as communicating. We're interacting with the high frequency, but we're not literally having a chat. So that's because we can't embody that. So we can experience it, we can like give it, we can produce it in the world around us, but we can't just be open to the high frequency and deal with everything going on in here, because our body is like, we have to have the low frequency just to be alive. So I'm dancing around the point, which is crazy because it was so direct when I started in my own mind. And this is how earlier I even heard that someone needs to think about focus and that it's in your hands. don't believe you cannot get control of your own focus, because that is the low frequency feeding itself. Okay, so this is what I wrote down. Ridiculous that it's taking me this long. But that's because it's so needed. So when you have an alarm sounding, like when you're feeling low frequency reactions, and you're like, that feels like a low frequency kind of coming in at me, sometimes you can feel that because someone's in need. Like as a medium, I activate my accept or block or fight or flight response on purpose. And that's what makes me able to know, okay, what alarms are going to sound? Like what types of information, what's the frequency of this type of reading? Like what am I going to start with? Where's it going to go after? I can't just give like one thing because they're all different. But my reactions are dependent on what frequency I'm experiencing. So, for example, if I'm going to do a reading that's personal with someone and there's a lot of healing needed, that means there's low frequency information in that house, whether it's a house or a person, and it needs to evolve. And how do you evolve it if the low frequency only feeds itself? So if the low frequency only feeds itself, the only way up is to grab on to the high frequency, which is upward. So that's why it's like a current that's always accessible, but it's dependent on how much low frequency you have in the way of your ability to interact with it. Because, okay, this is where knowing that you're protected is as simple as deciding that you're protected. Consciously. If you're opening up, then you have a bigger view. You can see a bigger spectrum. So that means that that means that you are able to interact like way quicker than before when you were not aware of it. It's like way easier to just like dabble in because you look. That's what I'm saying. Weird. But I know you get it because I feel like you're going through this. Whew. Okay, and I feel like I'm seeing energy stuff too in my peripheral. So if you're seeing that in your house and you're like opening up and you're like, oh my gosh, is this too much to handle? It's not, but you have to catch up and process every single step. Don't let those walls keep you from transitioning into this larger perspective that you are able to handle. You don't get stuff put on you, like energetically. It's not put on you. You're just aware of it. You're just experiencing it. So it's like you have to decide, okay, which bits am I going to experience and when? But in order to do that, you have to get the low frequency out first. So the reason I'm saying all of this is because a kid, or maybe someone who's going to do a reading with you that's in need of healing something emotionally, that's a need coming from a low frequency. And so you sense it the way that you sense a need for a child as they're growing. And you're like, whoa, what is this that I'm sensing around me? Like, what am I sensing? Why am I hearing this? Why am I feeling this? Like, you know how they say that mothers can hear infants cry when they're not even in the same house? Like, that's true because we're connected. And it's a willing connection. So it's a need. It's a sense and a need aligning with one another. So the thing you need to know as you open up, I swear I'm getting to the point, is that the lowest, not the low, the lowest frequency, the stuff that needs to be cleared out of a house by anybody, not like I need to go in there. I mean, it needs to be cleared out by the authority figure of the house. Because if you want to be the authority figure, then you should. in your home here too. Both. So if the low frequency is imitating, if the lowest frequency is imitating a need from a human or pet or creature, if the lowest is being sensed, it imitates a need. It imitates something that you're supposed to be interacting with. It imitates it very naturally because you have a natural alarm sounding to it. And our human, this is where the rest of the reading comes in. Whew, that was a lot. So definitely talking to mediums, definitely talking to people who are opening up in a very large spectrum and not, that's the thing. When you open up to do readings one-on-one, in your mind you can think, oh, I'm going to get really good at just doing a reading one-on-one. But in reality, you're actually like opening up everywhere. Not one-on-one only. That's just your focus. So that's why if you don't believe you can gain control of your focus, then your own belief that you can't control your own focus is feeding your inability to control your own focus. And that's not going to go anywhere. That's not going to get you anywhere. And I feel like there's a need to pull up, but there's like a chaotic type of energy in here that I almost feel like there's a clumsiness that kind of just like swooshes in every now and then, the more open you become. Sometimes that can come in a positive way, where you get like this super crazy reflex, or you like go to pick up, I don't know if you do this. This is like one of those weird things that I've connected with other humans on that like, we don't live together. But like where you go to lift up a milk jug or something in the fridge and you're like you slam it upward and you're like, why did I do that? I feel like someone is experiencing sort of like swooshes that are negative. This can make you run into door frames. It can make you just like throw something instead of dropping it, because that's different. That's not necessarily a positive thing. That's kind of rude. That's kind of like having a sibling come in and be like, haha, So if it feels like something that's messing with you and it's not cute, like it's not messing with you in a recognizable or familiar, sweet way, then you have no reason to identify it. And I think that's one of the most important things. Whoever you are so accepting of feminine. And that means, that's why the first thing that I thought was that you need protection. And all that means is you need to be aware that protection's available and that it's normal to need it. That doesn't weaken you. So that's why I'm saying like you don't have to be a female to have strength in feminine. Because what you need to recognize is even if you're a big masculine, you need protection from something that you cannot see. And something that you cannot see that is capable of imitating a human need that you want to see, that you want to sense and be aware of, that is something you need to be protecting yourself from. So the need for protection is really just you strengthening up and recognizing that your authority comes from the highest frequency because you're allowed to make a call about who's in here. It's as simple as that. You're the only one who's allowed to make that choice. So I feel like you have a goal, whether you've articulated the words or not. There is this goal always, like at all times in the back of your mind or space, wherever you're at, that you want your truest self to fully embody your life. I know that sounds like just words, but if this is for you, I feel like you get it, because this has to do with that. This is like I always talk about like, it's what do you follow? What are you going after? What are you reaching for? But this feels so much like you're right on it. You know that what you're reaching for, you've already got. Like, you already know that it's inside of you. And I feel like you are so, in such a large, nurturing way, accepting of reality, truth, of your human, the fact that you are only human. And I feel like that gives you grace, and you do deserve to receive that grace. Like, I feel like you can make it on your own, but you need to be protecting yourself as you open up, because you're so nurturing. And what is that like in the living world? Like, what is that like in our space? I just talked about this, I think, in the very last reading, about like no more getting taken advantage of. And like, the more nurturing and largely accepting you are, it's like, this is so rude, but it's like a bug drawn to a light, literally. And that's like that shallow feeling of that narcissistic type of interactions. Ooh, that's something else that I feel like is important. I think people, you can experience sort of like, if you're not careful and conscious of it, you can sort of accidentally delve into negative interactions with people because you're opening up too. Because everything's going to work with itself just to make, like, the low frequency is going to just want to feed itself. So the less apt you are to feed into the low frequency, it's like the more the low frequency is chaos around you, because you're not chaos. You're not the chaotic part of it. So I think that you have stopped doubting yourself. So, which is really neat, because this feels like someone who's like mastered your own ability that's ridiculous. But I'm like, okay, what does this look like? And it makes me think of someone just like throwing little throwing knives, you know? I think they're little bitty things that you actually do throwing. People throw knives into trees or something. But it's like, I feel like you can do that with all of the compartments of yourself. And I think that it's crazy. I feel like, so before I started, I was saying, I would like typically say that forgiveness is a form of acceptance when I'm talking out my mouth in a reading. But I heard the sentence, gratitude is acceptance. And like, that's probably been said somewhere. I've probably heard that somewhere. But it's like, I almost feel like your tunnel vision blocks your ability to accept that same gratitude that you actually, like, that's how you reach. When you're, okay. Gratitude is a shield. It's literally like, if you're grateful for the fact that you have a high frequency connection and that's going to protect you no matter what alarms are sounding, no matter what low frequency reactions you're having, and no matter who's coming at you or pushing in when you're trying to have peace. Because this feels energy stuff. Like, I feel like somebody's experiencing other people messing in their energy, and I don't think they know they're doing it, because we're just so impactful with our intentions and our emotional drive behind them. Okay, so a part of this is that once you're so largely emotional, in a beautiful, awesome way, like in a smart way. I feel like you're very emotionally intelligent, and sort of, it's like you're well-rounding yourself with everything you've experienced, and now you're kind of coming into a full cycle with yourself, where you're like, I need to equalize all of the parts. And it's like they're all strengthening up. And this feels kind of like an emotional moment. And it's more so like what you need to accept, which is odd, because I feel like, and I just keep thinking about the fact that I keep thinking back to these conversations in like multiple readings with really beautiful people, where even someone that, like my sibling I just talked to, where you can love so much, and then like when you realize it, okay, this feels like not that all of your, I think there's one like unlocking thing emotionally that, first of all, as you grow energetically and you're pulling and you're moving and everything, all of your needs are going to call too. Like all of your needs in little areas from your life experience, they're going to be trying to clear out all the low by being like, sweet, we can be heard now. Oh, great. Okay, well, now it's my turn. So that's why it's like every time you think you're done, you have to start again. And it's like, will it ever stop? Yeah. And then you're going to be but you're going to get quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker at it. And that's the best you can do. And you do that. I feel like you started off strong. That's the other thing, is like, I feel like in the past, I keep feeling like your childhood self is going to come up, like all the way up and out now. But it feels like it was always like really solid. It was always full grown, like next to you. So it feels like a very aligning moment. Okay, so here's the other part I keep wanting to avoid, but I'm not going to because it's huge for whoever this goes to. I think that you need to get into, this is so weird. I keep thinking about the fact that I had to find a special mascara years ago because I cry all the time. For good reasons, for pain reasons. You know, when you feel empathy for other people, it's a hard world that we live in. You know, everybody goes through something awful. So, and also beautiful things are so beautiful, like when you're grateful and you can just like experience it all. And then like if you experience dead people experiencing good moments through you, then you just cry like a baby all the time. So I'm thinking about that, and I'm realizing someone needs to realize that what you have done is you have finally gotten your human back into a fully sensual creature. I think that's why I feel like the feminine is like so strong, because it doesn't feel like feminine as I don't mean like a visible type of feminine or like the overly sensitive, but I think that there is a strength in your emotional capacity and what you can handle and what you can like process throughout your systems, because it seems like this is a moment to realize that you are going to feel overly emotional for a while. And this is a new phase of taming that. Don't silence it. I also keep thinking about these cute moments, you know, that you've heard in all these movies where like there's somebody who can see dead people and their grandma always told them, don't be afraid of it. Don't run away from it. It's like, I'm hearing that where it's like, don't think that this is like a roller coaster of chaos forever. This is you finally being free, and you need to take the reins, and it's going to feel emotional. Just let it go. Let it bleed out. Let it go through. Especially as you transition faster and faster, I really think that people have emotional sort of like outpours regularly when they're constantly working on upgrading. So here's the thing. In these moments of feeling like, well, what could I possibly have to heal from again? I've already gone through so many things, like what could be holding me back now? This feels like the type of wound where all of your gratitude, all of your acceptance, all of your nurturing view, I think your willingness to see in that way, I feel like you never received that back. But I also think that the point here is that it was never appreciated in its full capacity for what it was. And that's why I feel like you need to realize that the way you are it's celebrated already. Like they're already happy with, not they're already happy with you. That's not it. The message is so much like, I just heard the song in Toy Story that you've got a friend in me. That's fine. Anyway, that's what I feel like though. I feel like as you open up bigger and bigger, like you've got to trust that they are there, because this is where people say faith, and I don't believe that that is just pretending something and faking like you think it's true. You need to know that they're trying to receive your love, because that's a gift. Like, you're actually a large energy yourself, and I feel like they're trying to help you reach the heights that you actually are able to reach. You've done everything that you can do, and now it's like, I think they're just trying to give you guidance. They're just trying to give you comfort in the fact that it's going to feel uncomfortable. That's crazy, because it's uncomfortable. Like, I feel like they're trying to comfort you. It's just like that sweet Bible verse that I will comfort you. I don't know what the verse is at this moment. I would know if I weren't like anxious every time I mention a Bible verse, but anyway, but it feels like they're trying to give you that acceptance that you give. And so that's how you jump right over all that low frequency stuff. You literally just like float on up. You know the old Fantasia movie? I think like 2000. That's old now. So when the whales in like the beginning of the movie, when they're in the sky and then the baby gets trapped, whether you've seen it or not, the baby gets trapped under a cave, and the parents are like they're like going all over the place trying to like guide the baby, and they can like see each other through the walls. That's what this feels like. You're almost out. The only thing now is to go to them. Like, let them be like, yes, we see you. This really is what you are. You know what else? It's like, let yourself cry. If you're feeling overly emotional moments and you're like, what is that? What was that weird flood thing that just happened? They're trying to give you. This is so crazy how difficult this is for me to get out of my mouth. But it's like this whole message is, and I think that's because you're afraid of this wound, because this wound sucks. I think a lot of us have experienced it in life. So this is going to be, whoever you are, you know if this reading's for you. Very simple. Okay, so what it is the fact that no one has ever, I think, validated that you did have that much to offer, but also that you did offer it, that you did do that you did look at others in that way. Like, I don't think that, it's like you have to heal that wound with them. That's how that one's going to go away. And if you do that, when you get that wound out, you're removing something that will no longer be holding you back from fully trusting that someone else has been there all along. So, if you're afraid of the overwhelm, you can handle it. It's like you're not able to build a dam and slow those things down, but don't run away from it. Let it come in, let it move through you. You're a sensual being, and that's for a reason. So you have to let things come out and then be like grateful that it got out. Even if it's not all of it and you know something might come up later, just be glad that you got it out. This is a weird thing I just read recently. So it was so random and so tiny, so like don't take this as me trying to talk about science with this, but it was an interesting little thing I read, is that they like tested, I don't know. There was some random article that's in my head right now that I'll say for the reading's sake, that they tested the adrenaline levels of certain dudes when they were smelling and sniffing female tears. To me, that's ridiculous because, duh, why wouldn't you test it on the females too? And all of them. But like you could just test human tears. But the whole thing with it is, I feel like you can naturally be your own comfort, but you have to experience it first so that you can reflect it for yourself. That's why you've got to trust that they're there, because that's the highest frequency guide that's available. Like I keep thinking about the moon too. Like I've been waking up and seeing the moon through my curtain, and that's just like not a normal thing. I'm not used to that. And because the moon just keeps throwing itself in my face, and I feel like I just keep thinking of mirrors and reflections. I know it sounds like the biggest Captain Obvious statement ever, but this is about you being able to reflect, like light reflects light. If you haven't experienced the highest level of acceptance yet, then you need to allow yourself to realize that you haven't experienced it. And at that moment, you can interact with the highest frequency and step right into a new experience where someone's accepting you. Someone is accepting what you've been through and reflecting your truth back to you. And then you're going to be like able to reflect that exact same like love and unconditional acceptance. Like that's what you have to offer. How can you walk okay in this world if you don't feel like anyone gives it back to you? Isn't this weird? I feel so pushy in this reading, so I'm sorry if that's how I'm talking. I just feel kind of overwhelmed with it, and it feels like, I almost feel like I've been fighting for my focus. And that feels like something that you might be doing, especially the more open you get. When things are trying to get in there, they want to take your focus, because that's the best thing you've got. If you can take control of what you're going to put your energy and your intentions into, then other things can't steal that away from you. It's yours. Like that's all you, if you want it to be. If not, then the low frequency will just be like just back and forth. So I think that sometimes we sink into projecting low frequency out of ourselves because we need high frequency back. That's so normal. You can't just find that in a person. I've even seen it in the comments when people are like, yeah, but what if people suck? And it's like, yeah, exactly. If you can't count on them, then the idea is to count on something that is as reliable as you are. And that is the highest frequency. And like, if there's no humans around and you're opening up to this stuff, trust it. Like, what have you got to lose? But like, you just reach over it, just like parents do, like when, or just like teachers do, like when kids are going crazy in school and stuff, and the teachers have to be like, hey, and then their voices bellow over, and then the kids are like, oh, right, we have to chill. That's what you do for your own peace and your own space. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm being really pushy because I think that you need to empower yourself to take control of that connection. Like a lot of people feel like, oh, well, they're coming in, they're telling me to do it now. I do that. I've said it. I will say it because it's how I sort of, articulate my life. But they're not going to push you because they're respectful. The highest frequency is literally the most respectful of your boundaries. They're not going to ignore them. They're not gonna push you when you say no, unless deep down underneath you know that they're right and you want to do what's right. Like once you say, I'm trying to do the right thing, help me get there, they're going to nudge you as you resist. That's it. They're trying to comfort you throughout your period of discomfort. You're going to transition and it's going to be uncomfortable, but you're going to have such a larger peace. And so you need a bigger friend. I just keep thinking like you need a friend. A match. Okay. I'm going to end it at that. I really hope this was helpful. Feels very packed full. So I will see you guys in the next reading.